Well, because there's a small breeze, and I didn't bring my sun hat. I probably should have. I actually brought this jacket, and it's actually warmer than I realised out here. Bit of a grey day. We haven't had any rain yet, and I don't know. I just assumed it was going to be cold by the river, but it's actually not. So I'm taking Zena and where have they gone? Zena and Alvin for their daily walk. And I did say a long time ago I didn't want to do YouTubes whilst walking because I've got to keep them near me. So this is not my preferred way of doing lives at all. What I have been finding though is when I'm at home, I'm always trying to work out when and where to do the live. And then I keep, choosing to prioritise something else. And I've had this very strong message or push or impression, if you want to call it. Come on, darling dear Nadina. Get out there, get up. I've really had a lot of messages I want to share with you all. And, sorry, it was Alvin really running into me. I had a lot of messages. I keep getting messages I want to share with you all. And I keep thinking, I could just do a 10-minute one here. I could just quickly do this here. And then I go, no, I should do some. It's Alvin and Zen, I don't want them running into my legs. Careful, little ones. Look at this. They've been very rambunctious. Anyways, point of the story is, as I often do, I overthink it. I've got a perfectionist tendency, like OCD, perfectionist tendency, and I keep thinking it has to be. I have this limiting thought of it has to be done a certain way. That's why. That is one of the reasons. Sorry, this bag keeps falling out. One of the reasons why I got high distinctions at uni, and in fact, I was told over and over again, your work that you're presenting is way beyond what's required for uni. Like, you're going overboard. Like you could do an eighth of what you're doing and you still get your high distinction. But what was happening, which is why I had to have a break from uni, that's why I haven't finished my uni degree, I needed to learn how to pull it back. I needed to get that life skill knowledge of how good enough is often way beyond better than what is required. And by good enough, I don't like that word, but there is a standard that is beyond good enough. One of my childhood, so good enough isn't the right word. Good enough as in fine, good job. It's a good job. It's a perfect job, as is. Don't need to do more. I have had to spend years learning this one. It's part of my inner childhood wounding. One of the ways I'm learning how to do this, through renovating this property in Northam. It's an old property, and the house was basically in quite disrepair. When my husband and I bought the property, the previous owners had gloss painted everything. I could see that it was an old house that needed a lot of work. I could see what needed to be done. I wasn't duped by that, and I knew that old houses need maintenance and this and that, rah-rah, so none of that duped me. What duped me was the gloss paint work. So they gloss painted a lot of walls, a lot of cement areas, and there was furniture everywhere. So on the outside, when your first impressions was, oh, this is great. Like, for example, the bathroom looked fine as is, but as it turned out, the tiles weren't even adhesed to the cement. They were just put on top of the cement. Alvin, Zena, there you are, well done. The original old back veranda, for example, which was cement, the previous owner had just put tiles on top of that, didn't use any adhesive glue at all. So within a month or so of my husband and I moving in, those tiles started to crack. And then I was like, whoa. And then when I did more work on the bathroom, all the internal walls were just completely covered in the thickest mould of purple, green, yellow, the most amazing colours, so thick, it was disgusting. There was so much water damage in those walls because the previous owners just siliconed it up and did that white covering over all the grout. So yep, but it wasn't like they did that to deceive us. It should have been declared, I think, but the previous owners, I know, met them, had a good friendship with them. I think they just did what they thought was okay, but what they thought was okay was nowhere near good enough. But what I've noticed is most houses that I've actually gone to work on, that I've had to repair, things have been done in a very shoddy manner. A lot of shortcuts get taken. There's a lot of professionals out there that do quite shoddy work because they know with 1 or 2 years you'll be able to see the shoddy work, but by then they're well and truly gone. Come on. And it's sad. And then the tradies that charge what they're worth to do the proper job sometimes don't get the work because there's someone else charging half the price, but the person charging half the price generally does a really shoddy job. A lot of paint work, terribly done, no initial prep work, blah, blah. So in my years of renovating houses, because I've had so many renovation jobs, not just on my properties, because I've renovated so many properties in my life. I've owned quite a few properties in my life and renovated rentals, not just renovated my own properties, but also renovated rentals. Then I started renovating other people's properties. And this all started from years ago, helping a lady out, my mentor. She's the really one. We started working on her houses when I was in my early 20s. And that's how I really learnt how to do it well. And then I keep meeting more and more people. And I grew up in the bush, where we all built the houses from scratch. So I've seen how houses get built from scratch. So I've got that knowledge, just built up on it. And then I realised, I love colour. I love helping people have a beautiful home. Like when someone says, oh, my house is really vanilla. Yes. Yeah, no, it's not me at all. I don't like it at all. Would you like my help? Yes, that'd be great. I've got the skill set to help that person out. Or someone says, I've got these ideas, but it's got to be done on a budget. Yeah, I can do that. I'm really good at resourceful renovating. And I like to empower the people to learn how to do it themselves, just like when I got empowered by people teaching me when I was a kid growing up. They must have seen me as being quite inquisitive. So I had some adults really take me under their wing and show me some stuff that just completely put me down a different pathway of living. It showed me how you can fix things up. It showed me how to logically address something that can look really overwhelming. And I've built up on that, and more people have come into my life and taught me more and more. And then I'm passing that knowledge on to others. It's a really wonderful thing to do. A lot of people with these houses that need just a bit of work done, and most tradies don't want to go near it. Most tradies will overcharge. Most tradies will just come in, get the job done in a couple of days. The person doesn't really know what's happening. They get something that they don't really want at like 10,000 times the price of what it could be and what they can actually afford. So when you work with someone within their budget, you use recycled products, you bring them on board, you do bit by bit by bit, let them have a process where they can think about it a bit more, which is what I have. My husband's in my home. We have this beautiful friend who's the most amazing builder you can imagine, and he's got all the tools you can imagine, and he's got all the skill set. So between him and I, so his capabilities of what he can do with his tools, my vision, my beautiful husband comes up with ideas. We incorporate them. I can hear his ideas, incorporate them into a practical way, work out how it can be done if it can't be done. So we all work really well together. But without our beautiful friend Brad, we wouldn't have been able to do it because he had the tools. And they're a bit hot now. I've got a jumper on in this jacket. Where are they? What's actually happening is I've actually had a few jobs with people where I bring my friend in. So he and I are working for other people together. So he and I as a team work for these other people. So we actually work really well. Ooh, she jumped in and it was way stronger than she realised it would be. She almost got stuck in the current. But he's also got perfectionist tendencies and he's got inner child trauma. And I've come to realise a lot of people have such deep inner child trauma, and then when we all work well together, we can actually help each other be the best we can be. Because my friend Brad also has perfectionist tendency issues. He was the one that taught me with my current house I'm in. Your good enough job, Nadina, is beyond better than what is needed to happen. So that goes back to the university essays and university PowerPoints and all that sort of stuff. And it's been a really amazing experience because I've been able to take that into my work field. So I've been able to say to my clients, look, this and this and this and this is how you could go. This and this and this will be perfect, good enough, beyond good enough, and within your price range, blah, blah, blah. I said, this is what we can look for, and this is what may happen in 3 or 4 years, but it probably won't. So transparent, hope that wind's not being loud to you, transparent, not sure where the microphone is on this phone. Yeah, learning how to not be a perfectionist and learning how to deal with my OCD is 2 things from my inner child trauma that's helping me as an adult move through life way better. Way better. Like, it takes so much stress away. I don't get the heart palpitations. I had the ability to do so much. I used to hold myself back a lot. A lot of us do. So back to inner child trauma in general. We all, gentle, I don't think there's anyone that hasn't had inner child trauma. Years ago I learnt, but a couple of months ago I shared with you the difference between, like, I think it was something I learnt at uni even. A child who doesn't get the flavoured ice cream they want at a show, that for them is trauma. I want strawberry. By the time they get to the ice cream van, all the strawberries gone, and they don't get a chocolate. There's only chocolate, mint or vanilla, and they have a memory, a really, really bad memory of that show, and then forevermore they hate chocolate ice cream. And they just cannot remember anything about that show except for it was a terrible day. That's trauma. So trauma itself doesn't have to be something that's horrifically horrifying. Many of us have experienced horrifying trauma. It's generally the ones of us who've experienced horrifying trauma who do the shadow work that become the wounded healers. We become the ones who, by lived experience, which is actually a terminology in job descriptions, but many jobs now will hire someone with lived experience over someone who has, say, for example, done a degree or something, because that theory knowledge does not touch the sides of lived experience and healing, working through and surviving that lived experience. So in mental health, there is some good systems out there that like to employ a lot of carers out there, a lot of rehabilitation programs out there, especially around the drug and alcohol rehabilitation sector, all that sort of stuff. There are so many sectors where one of their requirements is lived experience. So that in itself is one of the most profound qualifications that anyone could have, and it's very sought after, which most people know. Most people understand the process of learned lived experience and the wisdom from, wow, okay, had that experience, this is what I did, this is how I got myself out of it, and obviously we get ourselves out of it with the support and help from others with lived experience, and it's this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful symbiotic relationship. We all get to where we are because someone helped us. Check out this for a kangaroo. Is it coming up? Can you see it's almost like my whole hand. That's a kangaroo. That's one toe, and that's the other toe. Yeah, it's huge. Don't, Zena. Look, smiling. I actually haven't seen the kangaroos yet that big here, but I keep seeing tracks, and I think, wow, they're very big kangaroos. Sometimes I see their, what are they called? Scats. They're scats, which is their poo. Wow, it's a huge kangaroo. Like one bound from there to there. That kangaroo must be 3 metres. 2 metres, that can't be. It wouldn't be able to jump through these. Tell you what though, they've got really thick fur, so maybe it really is 2.5 metres big. So inner child trauma is something that I've been learning about a lot for a very, very long time, and have worked with many, many, many people throughout my life to understand and heal my traumas. Also, people working with me for us to heal their traumas. And this is something of why I'm so excited about doing this live today, because the last few days have been so amazing for me. So amazing. So amazing. Like, I've got so much to share. But every single day, there's this most incredible experience. Maybe not today, because I'll probably be home all today. And I've just got this YouTube live today, which might be my only contact with humans today. But tomorrow I'm working. Friday I've got... I thought that was a dead animal, but I thought that was actually a hare. And I didn't know what it was, but it's just bark. Amazing. Looked like an animal. Oh, see, there's the kangaroo marks again. Huge. Oh, gentle. So anyways, yesterday I had the most beautiful day with my beautiful neighbour, and she and I are developing one of the most amazing friendships I've ever had in my whole life. And I realised it's because I'm of a calibre that it would attract someone like that now. Yeah, well, how I was a year ago, maybe she wouldn't have been interested in me. But she's held space for me in a way that she's seen me rocking, shaking, like full on snot coming out my nose, like crying, like not being able to stop, but shaking, like, constantly like rocking my head, complete cathartic breakdown. She's seen me like that a couple of times and been with me. It's actually from the time with her that I actually was able to go deeper into that deep expression. And then I was able to go deeper and deeper. And every time I looked at her to see, is she feeling drained? Is she feeling scared? All I could see in her face was serenity and calmness, complete non-judgmentalness, just peace, and completely there, completely present. And I keep saying, you have a skill that I have not seen in anyone else, not even professionals. And I've seen a lot of mental health professionals in my life, a lot. I've been trying to get help since I was 15. I've had the system really not be able to, they just don't, they love it when you just accept the medication and then you just not numb yourself out or whatever. Or they love it when you talk in a really helpless victim mentality, but when you're talking from a really coherent, strong, sort of from the full perspective, seeing it from the perpetrator's perspective, seeing it from all the perspectives, a lot of them don't know what to do with that. They're going, whoa, and I've seen it over and over and over and over again. And I've even been with counsellors who, when they realised I was a uni student, tried to get my login details so they could get access to my uni resources, because when you're a student you get access to websites, and you get access with your special login details. You get access to so many resources that everyone else has to pay a lot of money to get. So I've had a lot of professionals who try and take advantage of me, and I'm like, well, you got to be kidding me, right? Why would? Because if you've got access to someone's uni account, you can do anything. You are the student. It's your account. Like, my account is my account. That's a one-off. That's my details forevermore. No one else gets those details. They're just mine forever. Anyways, my beautiful friend, my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful friend, my neighbour. Never in my life have I felt someone so balanced, so of the same ilk as me. And I was saying to her yesterday, because we were walking around town, we had this beautiful day of just walking around town and hanging out and just having a great day. talking about some deep stuff, but mostly just chilling. And we saw this group of old ladies, like in their 80s, and we both look at them and smile. I said, oh, that's going to be us when we're old. She goes, I know. Yeah. I said, if you stay here in Northam, that's going to be us when you get old. And it was just the funniest, most beautiful feeling. But I've been sharing to her a lot about how I feel very differently with her than I do everyone else. I feel like we're so balanced. And I've been trying to work out what is the difference between her and I, me and everyone else. And I keep coming up with these similarities. And of the common denominator of all these other people who are fantastic. So the day before, there was 3 of us hanging out, and one of us needed a lot of support and help, and there was 2 of us really helping this other lady out. And we're trying really hard to get this information to help her really receive it. But she kept saying, I can't get it in. For some reason, I can't receive it in. And I said to her, I'm understanding something about how you find it so difficult to accept true, loving support. I'm identifying a pattern with you and a heap of other people I know, including my husband. And I've come to realise that each one of these people, because I've heard all their stories, each of these people has come from an institutionalised, narcissistic upbringing. So they've all had to deal with narcissistic families or systems. Each one of these people has declared to me, each one of these people was not given a chance to say no without feeling scared, a chance to make mistakes without feeling scared. They weren't given a chance to explore their identity. They were told they had to be a certain way. No, I'm not going to use the word groomed, but look at the animals. Each one of these people had to grow up in a system that was so doctrinated, so regimented, so it's got to be done a certain way. And none of these people had grown up with the ability to work it out for themselves. They just did what was told, and they might have had resentment about it, like major resentment, but they had to do what they were told to do. They had to fit in. They were given no space to be an individual, no space to explore who they were as an individual. And then they've taken that inner trauma. I hope that's not too loud. They've taken that inner trauma into their adult lives as someone who finds it impossible almost to say no when someone is using potentially a perceived tactic. It might not even be. There's this lady who I was listening to the other day. I've been listening to her a lot. I've been listening to her story a lot. And no one's actually forcing stuff on her, but she's hearing that there's force there. So even when the person's not saying, you have to do this, or if you don't do this, then I will do this, they're not actually saying that. In fact, there's this one person that's saying, is everything okay? I don't want you to feel taken advantage of. Just want to, stay near. Blah, blah, blah. He's trying to create healthy boundaries with her. And she's like lying to him, going, oh, no, everything's okay. But actually inside she's feeling like she has to give him everything, do everything for him. And she doesn't, and she's having these palpitations. She's actually having these major crazy meltdowns inside, which I was noticing. We've discussed to the nth degree. Me and our other friend discussed the nth degree. The other day, there was 3 of us discussing it to the nth degree. Zena, come on. Zena, thank you, darling. Woohoo! Okay, oh, you missed them. And then we all started having a discussion. And I said, I've come to realise this pattern. You're giving your power away, even if the person isn't using manipulation tactics. It's like if someone asks something, or it's almost like this subconscious need to acquiesce. It's like there's no backbone, no sense of true self. So I've been listening to, and then the day before I had this amazing catch up with it. I think there's 5 or 6 of us. So I've been having all this really incredible, like lots and lots and lots of amazing. The day before, which was Saturday, I forced myself to socialise. I wanted to stay home, and I don't know if it was God but I felt this message like, you must go out. Come on. So I forced myself to go. It was Illuminate Balloon Elevate Festival, and I'm so glad I did. So glad I did. And then on Sunday we went to the Moondine Festival in 2J after church. Anyways, being really forced myself to be social. That's me getting out of I can find it very easy to isolate and spend time alone. I can find people really exhausting. And that's where I've got to be much more honest with myself. Like, this is when we look at our inner child. See, I used to always think I have to be available, might be there for the other person always. Like, just be of service to everyone all the time. And everyone else is more important than me. I was a major people pleaser. Up until last week or a month ago, I don't know, like even now maybe. Like, it's an inner child trauma. Hope that I'm just gonna put you in my jacket. Basically, little ones, you might not like that terminology, little ones. Basically, with this inner child trauma, the journey of looking into our shadow is literally possibly a lifelong journey. I keep wanting to believe that at one point we can feel a true sense of release and peace from anything that happened in our past that's from the past. I still firmly believe it's possible. I'm nowhere near there, but I'm getting closer and closer. And I definitely feel a sense of peace and calmness that I've never felt before, and also a sense of conviction. Like confidence, conviction, whether that's God's power working through me or, well, it is God's confidence working through me. It's because God's in me and around me and guiding me. So I do get guided to be more assertive, more confident, more, that's this YouTube channel, for example. We all have a voice. We all have something to share. And, each one of us, what we share, there's someone else out there that's going to get a lot of benefit from it. Like, being of service to others is shining bright and big, and, well, that's not true. Like, some people you can shine brightly and not be in the public eye. So shining brightly and bigly doesn't mean being well known. That's why you get your ghostwriters. That's why you get people who write stories, who get someone else to actually put their name on the book, So being big and shining doesn't actually mean physical big and shining. It means being big and shining in our soul. I think that wind's gone. In our soul. So when we're honouring our soul, when we've really identified that we are more than just the identity that we were given growing up, we're way more than that. So the inner child trauma healing, facing the shadow, using the shadow as our ally. What I've been talking about this for years and years and years on my Facebook lives with all of my friends. I've been talking about it a lot. The shadow is nothing to be scared of, and I've been saying this to everyone who I've been speaking to recently as well. The shadow is nothing to be afraid of. And now I can say, with God by your side, when you surrender to God, good Lord, there really is nothing to be fearful of. Like, with God by our side and God protecting us, we literally are I don't want to use the word invincible, because we have to still be aware of what we're Like if we say we're invincible, sometimes it might make us go into something with too much arrogance or too much, see them? Too much arrogance or too much false shielding. Or what I'm trying to say there, I think, is we still always need to be accountable for ourselves. We always got to be accountable for ourselves, and God is completely there with and for us, and we are under God's protection. Yet we still need to be mindful of, protecting, looking after ourselves as well. That's what God wants of us. That is what self-love is. Looking after this vessel, loving this vessel, honouring this vessel. The self-love is loving God. I've come to realise this, and I've been sharing this with so many people lately. Self-love incorporates completely surrendering to God's love of us, and that we are lovable, and in that then we are under God's protection. And in that self-love process, that's where we develop and build up our, like, God wants us to eat healthy food. God wants us to do healthy actions. God wants us to be around people who nurture and honour and build up us, being of the people who, who we nurture each other and we build each other up, and we become the flock, the built up strong flock. We grow and in abundance and prosperity with all of the, the nurturance. When we're around people and everyone we're around, and we are all looking after ourselves, looking after the others, and we're all got this symbiotic relationship of care and love and kindness. We don't just be of service from our own self to the others, we're of service to the world within a community. We become very powerful within that community. The cord of three is a really powerful thing. Cord of three. I've got a few female friends who have started to really, really open up about some really big, deep stuff. I'm so proud of them. I am so proud of them, because they're finally trusting and believing in me when I say the shadow is nothing to be frightened of. The shadow is our friend, our ally. The shadow is literally our ally. I used to have so many dark nights of soul when I lived in Mount Lawley. I had a really hard time. I had this beautiful property. It was mine forever. I'd renovated it perfectly. I had these horrible neighbours that were making me feel so scared, and I felt like there was just something in me, that felt really not complete for some reason. My life wasn't actually complete, even though everything was okay enough. Everything was pretty okay. Like, in fact, everything was, you could almost say, perfect. You could actually label it all as perfect. But there was something that did a lot of shadow work at that place. Obviously, I wasn't a Christian back then, so that's probably part of it. But there was more. There was a lot more. And I had discussed it in all my old Facebook lives when I first started doing those lives. It was really a time of what I believed my life was supposed to look like, which is what, obviously, I'm still in that space of believing my life is supposed to look a certain way, and it doesn't look that way. Like, my life actually doesn't look the way I wanted it to look. Like, the ego side of it wanted it to, I really wanted to live with my beloved by my side. We're sharing this life. We're being really inspired and creative, and we work to get, you see these people and they are so on fire with each other. They're collaborating. They back each other up. They actually hold each other's backs. Like, they actually really support people for each other. And they do big things. They do big projects together for the world. They've been of service to the world, because we can do a lot of stuff for the world on our own. But when you're in union, when you're in deep, strong partnership with someone, or what I've been learning though is the partnership can be, within a community. So I realised that the inner child trauma in me was really hanging on to that, happy families thing has been something that I really wanted to experience at least once in my life. And I did experience it with my previous husband. I had a beautiful marriage and we'll bring up our kids, and I did experience it with him. The funny thing is, though, I think, Zena, I'll show you. She's swimming. Let's see if I turn around. Mina. See the dark, where it gets really dark? That's actually very deep there. And there is a strong flow, stronger than you realise. Anyways, that's shallow where they are now. She really loves swimming, hey? She loves the water. It's adorable. Anyways, everyone, I'm just basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is that my dark nights of the soul, I had a lot of them when I lived in Mount Lawley for many, many different reasons. I've still had quite a few of them up in Northern. In fact, the dark nights of the souls up when I moved up to Northern intensified to a whole nother level of something I can't even describe, except for when I first started doing my YouTube lives June last year. There was just the pure, the dream, believing that the dream was there. That this thing that I've been desiring, this way of living, this way of how I wanted my life to look was actually there, but then it wasn't for all these different reasons. And there was a lot more shadow work to do. A lot more shadow work. As I've been saying to all my friends, the shadow work is an interesting journey, and it's in layers, it's in spirals. It's like, and I was reading about it the other day too. So the deeper we go into the shadow work, it gets more intense. So the first initial shadow work, you might go around and you might get the I explained this once in a previous YouTube. So you might go around and you might have one bit of shadow work once a year. It might be at Christmas time, right? Because you've got this really dysfunctional, toxic family, for example, which is very common. Like, most people have very dysfunctional, toxic family interactions. And around Christmas time, inevitably something comes up because people have their drinks or whatever, rah, rah, rah. So that's a really common thing why people get real anxiety around Christmas, and why people commit suicide. Really, that's actually the time of year when people commit suicide like crazy. So basically, someone who's doing the first bit of their shadow work might get it once a year. They might prepare for it. They go, oh, well, I'll have a few drinks, I'll be able to get over it. It's Groundhog Day, I'll just bear it, can't stand them, or whatever, I'll just handle it, I'll deal with it just for the sake of, rah, rah. And then they go, oh, it's over. Now I've got one more year, and I'll deal with it one more year. So that's actually mini shadow work, but they haven't. Sometimes people take it further, and they might go, what? How can I make this family dynamic better? What can I do to make it that maybe I can enjoy Christmas? Or maybe I could actually just honour myself and not do that Groundhog Christmas Day with family that I really don't like being around, don't like how I feel when I'm around them. Maybe I could do something different. And then that process of starting to think like that brings up more shadow work. So that person then might actually have 3 or 4 shadow work sessions in 1 year. And then the more people want to delve into or look into or try to unpack or understand or comprehend all their areas where they don't feel good in themselves, like, oh, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. That's where I feel disempowered, or I feel fear around that, or I feel anger around that. I want to change that. I actually want to help that situation become better, or I want to work out how I can get strong enough to remove myself from that situation. And that's where more shadow work actually starts to happen. And then the people might start having many, many shadow work sessions in 1 year. And then that's what this article I was reading when it says the spiral. When you first start your shadow work, it might only be once a year, or it might be once every 5 years. But the deeper you go into the shadow work, the more you funnel into it, the more you trust your heart, the more you trust yourself, the more you get your resources and your networks and your algorithms, blah, blah. It actually intensifies the shadow work because you're getting closer and closer to the core of what is actually the underlying reason for all these symptoms that are up there at the very top of the spiral. And that's what I said to this friend of mine 2 days ago, because she goes, I'm so far, I've been doing this for years, I've been doing this healing for years, and blah, 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 blah. She was having a freak out. I said, Stop. The work takes time. There's always cycles. And guess what? Often just before the biggest breakthrough is when it all gets so intense it feels unbearable. It's like, for all we know, you're one day away from your big breakthrough. You're one day away, because this is what happens. You get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the intensity of the core. And then when you actually hit the core, poof, it actually disappears. It actually goes, poof, and it actually goes. And then all of a sudden, that particular shadow becomes your strength. That particular trauma becomes your strength. That particular pain becomes your strength. And then we start growing. Then we stop actually living in fear. We stop living in fear, and then we start thinking, oh, the shadow work is actually helping me feel more at peace. Oh, the shadow work's actually helping me understand myself better. Oh, the shadow work's actually helping me get a better group of friends. Or the shadow work's actually helping me actually have healthy, beautiful, loving, authentic connections with my family. Or the shadow work's actually allowing me to create healthy boundaries with my family, so I don't have to keep going through that re-triggering of that trauma with those people who may or may not heal, but by me rooting myself out of that situation, they now can deal with it on their own. I'm no longer part of it, and they may heal, and then if they heal, they can step up to my level, and then we can all have this great relationship. There are so many tangents and dynamics to this shadow work that heal not just ourselves, but the world. When we actually do our shadow work within ourselves, we transform the way we interact with not just ourselves, but everyone around us, which then stops that negative ripple. And then when we stop that negative ripple, that's one less dense frequency that's actually drowning the world in fear. One less negative interaction, one less yucky, dense, horrible, demonic energy. That's what confusion is. The world of fear is the devil world. It's just keeping us small, keeping us not dreaming big. You know, you might have this beautiful dream, for example, of traveling around the countryside in a beautiful little camper van, you know, exploring the country, traveling, stopping off at beautiful, quaint pubs. And, for example, say you're an amazing singer. Say, for example, you've got this beautiful voice and you can bring this gift of God, your beautiful gift of God, to these small country towns, and you do that, and there might only be 5 people in that crowd, and some people go, oh, they're just there for me, they're not, oh, it won't be good enough, or oh, there's not enough of a crowd, or, but the thing is, the voice is beautiful, the people appreciate it. You might think, oh, you have to have a big crowd to be successful. That's a fear-based limitation viewpoint. If you're singing to even one person, and you're singing with God coming out of you, and that one person is receiving your gift from God, and you've given them the biggest joy of their life for that 1 year, that's success. That's success. But that to some people seems too scary because it's so confronting. But by focusing on that fear, letting that fear go, then all of a sudden they'll realise, oh wow, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. And then you go to the next small, beautiful country town, and you do a gig, and there might be, say, 5 people there, or 6 people there, or 8 people there, and then all of a sudden you don't have to fear that there's only 5 or 6 or 8 people there, because you think, woohoo, here I am, living my dream, God's gift, and it's going to build, by living God's gift and being in my dream, everything's going to keep propelling forward. I'm not limited by my fear anymore. All is possible. I don't need it to look a certain way. I don't need it to look this certain way in order to do. I can just be as I am. And that's what happens when we focus on our inner trauma. Not focus on it, but when we work with our inner traumas as a friend, as an ally, like my little one in me, I say, little one, thank you for surviving. Thank you for keeping me alive. Thank you for having dealt with that horrendous experience, surviving it. Surviving that horrendous experience, you gorgeous little one. Surviving it, and then handling that energy and keeping me alive to this point where I'm still alive now. And here I am alive now because of you, little one. Thank you so much. And now you can rest. I've heard your trauma. I've seen your darkness. I can now look after you, and I want to thank you and acknowledge you for having looked after me for all those years. And that's all allying with our shadow work is allying with our hurt self and actually honouring our hurt self for what they've gone through, listening to the message listening to the message of what that beautiful little one, they're hurt, listening to the message and then saying, okay, you can rest now, I'll look after you from now on. And thus you step into the adult response, and you're not reacting from a child, you're not reacting from that hurt child that was dominating you subconsciously. The driver's seat, most people, 99.9% of people, it's the inner hurt child that's actually driving their adult body and making their adult body say and do things. And thus that's why there's so much dysfunctional interaction and so much crazy crap going in the world, because there's all these little hurt children driving these big adult bodies, but there's no adult in the body. The adult is all shy and scared about approval and needing to belong and I've got to look a certain way, be a certain way, I've got to do it a certain way, which brings me back to institutionalised people who have grown up with narcissistic families, because narcissism is rife because of how many people are oppressed. So many people are oppressed because they have grown up in institutions. Like, lots of people grew up with that thing of you got to grow, you got to get old, grow up, get married, have children, have a job, 9 to 5, always have debt, this and that, rah, rah. Like, so many people have this limited way of living life, and they've never honoured their dream, they've never honoured what they want to do, they've never thought, well, hang on a minute, what if I... And then some people do break out of that, well done them. And then some of those kids grow up in a really awesome environment. So not everyone grows up in a toxic environment. However, most people keep perpetuating what they know, and they don't grow big from that. They just keep repeating and perpetuating what they know, and then the abuse continues. And then I've come to realise that there are people who grew up with no boundaries, like no boundaries, hardcore neglect, free spirits, just had nothing. They had no guidance, no, like me, and I've been meeting more and more. I've been meeting more people like me. We just grew up with, like, in the most unconventional way you could ever imagine, like, and we've had to learn how to self-regulate, learn how to get boundaries, learn how to create discipline, because we were never taught it. We've never practiced it. But what I've realised is we are actually less damaged than the people who grew up in institutions, because at least we found who we were, at least we know who we are, at least we know that, well, we didn't have anyone to say no to. We didn't have anyone to defy or rebuke or even, we actually had to become resilient and work it out for ourselves, and had to work out, had to come up with solutions and work out who could we bring into our team to sort of help us stay alive. And so we had to get really resourceful and resilient. But at least we knew who we were. At least we were making piles of mistakes constantly, and we realised, mistakes don't define you and mistakes don't kill you. And we also learnt who and who not to trust. We started learning, we started learning how to read humans, and because they've thrown mud and dirt all over me, we had to learn the hard way how to find who we were. But at least we found who we were, right? At least we get a clear idea of who we are. And that's what I realised. My neighbour and I realised that's one of our similarities. And then I've come to realise the similarity between nearly everyone else that I've been listening to. I've got so many friends that have got such similar stories, like a different details, but there's the similar outcome of they're constantly struggling to step up and live their dream, to step up and be who they really want to be. They've just got so much fear. They're riddled with fear. And then I came to realise just 2 days ago, my fear is very different to a lot of other people's fears. My fear is I'm not doing enough. My fear is I'm not being of service enough. I'm not being big enough. I thought that I was going to be able to help this planet a lot more than what I already have. I thought that I was told, you're a teacher, the world needs you, you must stay alive, when I was 3, and here I am at 52 going, well, I haven't really seemingly done that much to save the world. And then I've gone into a sense of despondency that time is running away. I haven't done enough. I'm not being big enough. I'm not being brave enough. And I've had to really let that go. And then every time I take a leap of faith and I go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I give it a go, and then there's another mistake, and it shatters me down, shatters me out, knocks me out, makes me go, oh my gosh, I keep making mistakes, when am I going to make the right decisions, rah, rah, rah. And then I had to learn, no, God, this is all God's divine plan, everything is perfect. And now from a place of, I'm not going to say no fear, but almost from a place of no fear. I'll just turn that phone message off. Oh, phone call. Almost from a place of no fear. This is what I was saying to people. I've been saying this to people all the time now. If you are in fear, if you haven't completely surrendered to God, then that's where the fear comes in. You've got fear of that new job. You've got fear of blah, 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 blah. Everyone got their own details. So, but I've been saying to these people, you haven't actually completely surrendered to God yet if you've still got fear. Because when we surrender to God and we in full trust that we're living God's divine plan, then we know that everything is perfect, even if it doesn't feel good, even if it's something that we don't like, that's causing us to feel doubt or causing us to feel confused. We say, God, I release this confusion to you because I know all is perfect. God, I release this fear to you because I know all is perfect. So we still have that sense of doubt, of course, and we still have that sense of worry, and because that's human. That's what the priest was telling me the other day. He says he sometimes has all nights where he worries all night. The Catholic priest in Northern, he says I go through nights where I worry all night. And I said, wow. He goes, yeah, it's a human condition. Like, it's what humans do. By default, we fall into worry and negativity, and because we're flawed people, and we're simple-minded. We've only got a limited way of perceiving. We can't perceive God's vision. We've got no comprehension of God's divine plan. We're incapable of doing it, but in pure trust, we can at least have faith that God's divine plan is perfect. So if we don't doubt God's divine plan, we don't go into despair about the feelings and the situations that come up because of God's divine plan. That is what I was sharing with my friends the other day and been sharing on my YouTube. That is what I mean by surrender. So I said to this lady the other day, by surrendering to God, it doesn't take the yucky feelings away. Oh, and at Bible study group, we're talking about it as well. Sorry, it was actually someone else that even shared it to me. She said, just because we surrender to God doesn't mean we feel peace all the time. And by peace, people have this misconstrued idea of what peace is. Like, peace means no worry, no fear, no anxiety. And I can't remember if it's an article I read or something that someone said, but I read or heard the other day that peace is not no worries, no fear. And I know the word fear has to be described a bit, but peace does not come with this equilibrium and this ecstasy that's just forever and all we have is ecstasy. No, that doesn't exist. The peace is the faith that all is well, the faith that we are protected, the faith that we are loved, the faith that with God's divine guidance, we are on track. It's faith. So peace, I realise, is faith. There's more to that. I was reading about the other day. It's way, way bigger than that. But I have come to learn that peace and surrender do not equate to a life that has no weird feelings in the belly. And this is what I've been sharing with a lot of people. Like, this sense of peace and this sense of surrender doesn't come with this ecstasy. It just comes with this deep, I can't even think of the words. I keep wanting to say surrender, but then this sense of peace and this sense of faith comes with the deep surrender to all is perfect, all is well, divinely protected, divinely guided. And I'm becoming to realise that it's easier, come to realise that it's harder for other people to really perceive that and receive it, the institutionalised people. And I've come to realise that every person that finds it harder to accept this is someone that grew up with narcissistic family. That every single person that has been sharing with me how hard it is for them to truly surrender to God has shared with me so much about what's going on in their life and so much about what happened in the past and how they are still now. And there's such a common denominator, and it was only upon me getting really close with my beautiful friend who doesn't share the same similarities as these other people, and she and I are the same, that I came to realise that she and I didn't grow up with narcissistic family. I have never in my life had anyone deliberately and intentionally try to hurt me or manipulate me or keep me small. I had a very, very abusive father who was reacting just from primal energy. And I realise now, saying to this, who was it? I've been having conversations nearly every day with people. I'm getting a bit like forgetting who I was having which conversation with. But I was talking about my dad. Oh, she wanted me to go deeper into what was happening with my dad when I was younger, because, he used me as a prostitute when I was a child, and he used to force really heavy drugs on me, like LSD and all that sort of stuff, to make me compliant, blah, blah, blah. And she was going, well, let's discuss this further. I said, we don't need to. My father, I had come to realise, was 19 and 20 and 21 when he was doing this, 19 to 21. I finally it was like last week, I shared this on one of my previous YouTubes. I just realised for the first time in my life, I realised my father's not a perpetrator. I realised my father was being force-fed drugs himself to keep him as a drug addict. And we were from the Sicilian mafia, and I realised he was probably being abused by someone, and he was an addict, and probably when he did some of that really bad stuff, he could have been withdrawing, or he could have been really high. He could have been threatened by certain ways. He could have been threatened because, as I've shared with you all before, one of my very early memories was being surrounded by all the people in black cloaks and being under the water, and the moon and the stone wall where it was, and obviously they were inserting various things into both of my exposed orifices. My head was underwater. Do you say orifices for something that's not in your face? Anyways, my VAGINA and my BUT. So those two holes were being penetrated with all sorts of objects, but I don't think I had actual insertions of PINISs. I don't think so, but I was only really young, so I don't have full memory of everything. All I know of it was I was drowning, my head was underwater, I was drowning, and it was excruciating. I remember when I came up, they let me up for some breaths. All I could see through the watery, all the water that was waterfalling in my eyes, all the water that was making my eyes not be able to see properly. When you look through a lot of water, how you can't see clearly. All I could see through my blurry eyeballs was all the black cloaks and the moon behind them and this and that, rah-rah, and the trees with no leaves on them, rah-rah. And as I've shared with you all before, when I described this environment to my mother, she collaborated and said, she verified it, was saying, yes, that's when we were in Germany and you were this age and rah-rah, and that's when I first told her my first memory, and that's when she said, I'm so sorry, I should have known. She goes, you changed overnight, rah-rah. And that was the beginning of me never doubting a flashback or a memory. And I've had hundreds of them since then. So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I shouldn't say hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe 200. So many. Point in the story is, I said to this lady, my father, I realised with that memory of those cloaks around me, I realised he was probably the youngest one there apart from me. And I realised there was probably all these older people there, and they were probably abusing my dad. And I've never been able to say my dad before. So I have literally healed. For the first time in my life, I actually feel love for my dad. He died when I was 7, and I was not sad at all. We all felt so relieved. It was such a relief. He was such a monster. He was a psychopathic. Well, I thought he was a psychopathic monster. But now I've come to realise I've come to realise the difference between when someone's narcissistically groomed compared to when someone's just dealing with a very traumatised being. And my mother she's not diagnosed, but she got diagnosed with something that she knows not what she has. But I believe my mother's autistic, but they diagnosed her as something else, and they gave her some medication that she says doesn't work and this and that, rah, and she says, whatever, Nadina, I've got my simple life, I'm happy with my life. It's been such a traumatic life, and it's just simple and safe now. I don't need to know exactly what it is I have. So she's at a place of peace, thank the Lord. And my mother never did anything deliberately to hurt me. And I'll be meeting a lot of people whose mothers deliberately were nasty, or deliberately evil, or deliberately unkind, and or siblings. And I've come to realise the siblings, of course, act like that because that's what the parents were doing, and possibly that person's parents were doing it to them. It goes really far back. And then I've come to realise just in the last week that those people who grew up with narcissistic families actually have a much harder healing journey than all of the rest of us. And I've been sharing this with some people lately. I said, we've got to, and this is one lady who's actually dealing with a lot of healing from narcissistic abuse, and she keeps being so hard on herself. And it was actually, I said to her, I've had a lot of people in my life support me and care about me, and I've been able to actually hear their words. I've been actually able to take on what they're saying. I've been able to be present to hear their words. Whereas this lady, she actually keeps going, I didn't hear it again. I wasn't here again. I wasn't present again. And then it's me and this other lady were going, and then she kept apologising for her not being able to be present. And we said, no, stop apologising for your trauma. But I said, I'm identifying something here. I'm identifying something. It's like every time someone says something or does something, it's like it takes you back somewhere and it puts you somewhere, because it's like this sense of identity isn't there. And then we started talking about this sense of identity, and we went deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And then I came to realise this is the crux of most people who are surviving narcissistic abuse. They lose their identity. They don't know who they are. They lose their confidence. They lose their ability to think clearly, and they can't even be present in the moment. It's like they find it almost impossible to be present. So they can't really hear what's going on or see what's going on. They can't seem to really. It's actually really sad. It's so sad. And I've come to realise this in the last week. So now thinking this is why God brought so many narcissistically abused people into my life. I've been constantly meeting people who are dealing with narcissistic abuse over and over and over and over again. It's been like when I think about it, nearly everyone I know has a story. They dug the biggest hole. Don't you dare. They dug the biggest hole. They're dealing, can you see it? They're digging the biggest hole. And then they both just try to fall in it. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Oh, loves, I hope, look, anyway, the inner childhood trauma stuff, I'm finding this fascinating, because I keep meeting people that want to do this journey, and I keep realising that I've had this happen for so many years, 20 plus years. I've had people saying all sorts of different things to me about how I've helped transform their life, how what they're learning from me has helped them work this and this and this out, or you ought to be a counsellor, this and that, rah. Okay, gentle. And I actually come to realise that, yes, this is actually one of my God does plan this of me to help people work through their childhood traumas. And I've come to realise to help people work through if they've grown up without a sense of identity, because for some reason I have a very clear sense of self-identity, and I always have. And I've come to realise that a lot of people don't. And then I've come to realise, this is possibly why I've been able to go into the shadow work much easier than others, and I'm not so scared of the shadow work. And I'm able to hear and really appreciate and accept all the different love and support that I've received over my life, that's really allowed me to get to this place of such deep self-love. It's allowed me to open up to God's love, that's for sure. So, wow, peoples. Wow. So, inner child trauma work is such a beautiful journey to go down. Inner child trauma work with the grace of God and releasing everything to God. We cannot do it alone. So releasing, as a child of God, releasing all the different fears and worries and confusions that come up, releasing them to God and God's protection, allow God to help us heal. We shall all become adults in adult bodies. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to take these beautiful dogs home. And as you can see, I've got my work clothes on. I'll show you. My little Rossies that the dogs have eaten. But anyways, I'll get going back home, and tomorrow and the day after I'm really busy, so I've only got today to do stuff at home. But I decided while there's a break in the weather, I'd take the dogs out and look at this. It was grey before, and now it's beautiful and blue. We've been having the most amazing weather in Northern. It's just been absolutely... we've had the Elevate Ballooning Festival, and the balloons are so beautiful. So beautiful. Oh, it's just been a joy to behold. We had the best festival the other night, open air concert, and all the balloon shows, and then the balloons have been doing all the competitions in the sky. It's just so beautiful. We had the Moondime Festival, which is really funny, and I've got this incredible group of beautiful friends. I've seriously, sweet ones, doing this inner child work. It does free us to be in the inner child work and following God's divine guidance, and just being that place of surrender and trust and faith. Seriously, peoples, it puts us in the right place. We're at the right place at the right time. And every time we slump into those human moments of grief and worry and anxiety, we just release it to God. We release it to God in trust and faith. Just keep trusting in this beautiful journey that God's got for us. Okay, so sweet. So I'm not going to say sweet dreams. God bless. God bless to you all. And yep, keep well. I'll speak next time. God's been asking me to do a YouTube channel for a YouTube live for the last few days, and I kept going, I don't know what to share. I don't know what I want to do. I've got another little cold sore here for various different reasons. I was out in the sun too much the other day, and I just get really burnt out sometimes, or I just want to stay small. I just want to be my own little space, or just be with my friends. And I find this YouTube channel very, very, very confronting. It's actually something that I am guided to continue, and I'm very excited. I've been working so hard in the library. I'm actually now in the process of unpacking all of the stuff that's been packed for 17 months. In the process of unpacking it, and yeehaw, because I'm so close to have a functioning library study space, and that's where the YouTube will become professional. That's where I'm going to start having the therapy groups, and it's real exciting. It's so close. All right, God bless everyone. Bye. Keep well.